We'll just look here at the progress of this potted sandalwood. What is it? Santalum spicatum, a native Western Australian sandalwood that I grew in a pot. This is the tallest one. And it's now 44 inches tall. I just measured it. So it's nice to see for those people out there that are interested in growing santalums, that is sandalwood in New South Wales, which is clearly possible. And it's one of the world's most expensive wood, or one of the world's most expensive woods, timbers. Well, as we get up there, let's see. So now we have it, and it's 44 inches high, which is what, 112 centimeters. Let's have a handheld look now. This one's growing next to it in the same pot. There's two next to it in the same pot. They're about 30 inches high. They're bushier, these ones. I think maybe if you cut the big tall one in half, it might become bushy too. These ones are bushier to look at. They spread out more. They're getting all tough and woody. They're all woody, these ones, aren't they? They're all of them are woody. They're all grown from seeds. That one's woody to the other one. So there's several in this pot, but there's three big ones. There's the big tall one I showed you, and there's these two smaller ones that are about 30 inches high. And they're all just in the nature of an experiment, and they're all becoming woody little trees now. They're all woody. How many altogether in this pot? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 good-sized ones. This one here is smaller, but they're all pretty good size. That's woody, isn't it? Look how beautiful and woody it is. And I think this was just potting mix and a bit of clay. So I'm no what's the word for growing things? Not that terrible. Not agriculture. What's horticulture? I'm no horticulturist. There's some grass growing in here. So what are these hemiparasitic sandalwoods living on? They're living on, well, they're probably right up beside this pot. Right beside this pot, there's a huge privet. There's a huge privet tree here, and it's the roots of it undoubtedly go into this pot. I know they invade everything. So those sandalwoods, if they're latching onto anything, that's hemiparasitic plants, they've got privet roots going right into this pot. This pot, even if I water it with buckets of water every day, it dries out very quickly. It can't be these sandalwoods that are taking that water. It can only be the privet that's sucking the water out of this pot. So there are definitely privet roots in this pot, and it is possible that these sandalwoods from Western Australia are sucking goodness out of the privet roots. That's the 30-inch one. This is the 44-inch one over here. Good tall specimen. You can see there right beside the pot is a giant privet, and the privet sucks out everything for itself. Takes it all for itself, all the goodness in the soil. I think the privet leaves help shade the sandalwoods in the winter time. I'm in the Lachlan Valley here, and we get frosts, cold, frosty winters here, and we've got heavy clay soil, and we get hot, dry summers. But I've managed to keep sandalwoods alive. These ones are in the pot. I'll go and show you some down in the paddock in a minute, growing in the ground. This was all in the nature of an experiment. Of course, you must remember, as bush tucker, sandalwoods have an edible nut. They're related to quandongs. They're not known for their fruits like quandongs, quandongs you can eat the nut and the fruit. These are Santalum spicatum. They're well known for as bush tucker. Our indigenous people eat the seeds in the middle of them as nuts. And they're becoming part of the gourmet Australian bush tucker food. Look at the leaves. Look how tough this one is. It's so tough, and it's just a little tree. It's almost big enough to look after itself now. Good, thick, bushy specimens. Tough, self-sufficient. They won't be... They're not like the little ones that can be more delicate, and you can lose some of the little ones, as I have done, out in the field. These are good, tough specimens. And we've got a few tough specimens that have survived in the field as well. Kangaroos nibble them. That dreadful little wallaby nibbles them. But this one's doing all right, and the wallaby can't get at it because I've got these bricks around it to protect it. That's a lovely specimen, that one. It's getting all woody, and it's going to be taller this summer if I give it a bit of water to get it going, and it's going to do very well. It's going to do very well. It's going to survive, that one. It's a good woody specimen. That little wallaby is quite capable of nibbling a sandalwood right down to 0, where it would have to start again. If that grows taller, much taller, I have to use another brick or put a cage around it to make sure that little wallaby doesn't get at it. Here's another sandalwood doing quite well. It's got good, tough, leathery leaves and is becoming woody. It's becoming nice and woody. Protected from the wallaby with those concrete bricks. The wallaby doesn't put its head down very far. It might nibble the end of it, but it won't get at that. You can see it's grown quite a lot this season already. Look at that green. Look at the green. There's the woodiness, and there's green here after it. So it's grown quite a lot already this season, and it's going to grow more, especially if I give it some water. I think this one might actually be a quandong that was eaten back by the wallaby, but it's growing back now, and it's getting nice and leafy and to a good size and getting quite woody. Woody and adult enough to protect itself. I'll keep it going with a bit of water, and I'll try and protect it from the wallaby. It's doing quite well. Here's a sandalwood just growing wild under some elms. The kangaroo, the wallaby, hasn't noticed this one. I don't think it will notice it. It's sort of situated under some elms, a whole little forest of elms. I think it'll do all right here. It's starting to get woody. Once it gets to a good height, I won't have to worry about it anymore. Nice leathery leaves. They're getting all leathery and tough, all sclerotic. This one the wallaby got at 6 months ago, but it's making a comeback now. Nice and woody. Nice and woody. And nice firm leaves, nice leathery firm leaves. What's that? Bit of grass. And it's got all these elm trees behind it. I hope it might parasitise their roots, but in any case there's a gum tree right behind the camera. That's doing quite well. I'll put some water on that. Here's another growing in the elm tree wood. Yeah, it's a good size one, that one. It's over 2 concrete bricks tall, and it's going to be growing much taller this summer if I water it. And if the wallaby nibbles it at present, it would only nibble that top off. It wouldn't get the whole thing. Let's have a look at it. Lovely specimen. They'll soon be big enough to look after themselves. I might put cages around them when they get to a reasonable height. Look at that. Lovely, leathery, tough leaves, getting more woody down below. It's, what is it? Santalum spicatum, the native sandalwood. Has an edible nut and extremely valuable timber. And it grows here in New South Wales. This is growing in heavy clay soil. As I said, we have heavy frosts in the winter time. And we have hot, dry summers. They don't seem to be that happy when they're small with only a small... They're not the toughest of plants when they're little, put it that way, when you're trying to get them growing. But these ones are getting to a good size now. You can see they're becoming self-sufficient native trees. Here's a little sandalwood coming up beside a pine tree. You can see it's quite delicate looking. If it's not protected, it may well be nibbled down, or anything could happen to it. It's only small. I've got lots of ones like that coming up. I've got to decide which ones I'm going to protect and put a lot of energy into protecting. That could be nibbled down overnight by a wallaby, couldn't it? There's one right next to it just here. Let's have a look at that one. There's this neighbouring one just there. Quite small. Again, it could be nibbled by a wallaby if I put some bricks around it, and I put a brick around it and protect it from the wallaby. It might do all right. Oh look, there's another one just here beside it. I didn't know about that one. There's yet another. So if you plant those nuts everywhere, you will get them coming up. You will. You get lots of them coming up. And what? If you water them, they do rather well to get them going, to get them started. They do rather well with some extra water in the hot, dry summers here. I think if you were growing a plantation of them, a whole lot of them, that it would be better if you had irrigation on hand. You could make them grow much faster with irrigation. See ya.